Welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Today, I'm speaking with professional rugby player at Glasgow Warriors and Scotland, Rob Harley. Thanks for tuning in to the Pacey Performance Podcast. So I want to give a massive thanks to Rob Harley for joining us on the podcast this evening. So it's been a bit of an itch of mine that needed scratching with regards to getting an athlete on the podcast and just get their view on S&C as industry and kind of where the coach fits in. So I want to welcome Rob to the podcast.
Thanks very much, Rob. Pleasure to be on.
So for anyone that doesn't know who you are, I just want to give a little bit of a background on yourself and your kind of first experiences of strength and conditioning.
For me, I'm a professional rugby player. Play for Glasgow Warriors and I've played for the Scotland international team. I've been a full-time pro for 6 years. I had 2 years in the academy before that, and my sort of S&C experience proper begins another 2 years before that. So 10 years ago now at 16, when I was inducted into the junior academy for rugby in Glasgow. And that's when I was kind of started getting serious coaching towards lifting and fitness and kind of all the things around that. And, it kind of, for me, at least, it started as kind of a subsidiary piece. But the longer my career has gone on, the more of an interest I've taken in it, and I enjoy kind of learning about it, trying to apply the theories and using that as a performance tool for rugby.
So you just want to give us a little bit of background on your experience 10 years ago and how you were introduced to the gym itself?
The first thing and probably the most beneficial thing was kind of getting us in and having a structure around it of you come in 3 times a week and you lift, and you have someone who knows what they're doing, writing a program out for you. And for me, it started out with I'd done a little bit before that, so I'd done technique work with kind of the wooden bars and stuff, but that was kind of the first time I was getting proper coaching for these are the technique for your lifts. This is how you're doing it safely, and giving me a platform to build up and make improvements through that. And then kind of through each stage as you progress, you get kind of a more serious level of training. So when I was in the academy set up from 18 to 20, we did a lot of weights. Most typically it'd vary, but typically we'd lift weights 5 times a week, and kind of you adapt your body to the rigors of professional sport.
So how do you see the role of the S&C coach? How do you see that coaching role fitting into the larger performance team with the likes of the physios and the nutritionists and psychologists and things like that?
I think in modern sport in particular, it's very obvious that kind of the strength and conditioning of athletes is a crucial element to success. And I think as all sports, rugby included, become more professional, that's where teams are looking for an edge, as in how fit can you make the players, how much mass can you put on them, and how can you do that makes them effective for their particular sport. And it's something I think we do very well at Glasgow, that the strength and conditioners have feedback into the rugby side of it, and they're actively looking from the players for what exercises are specific to rugby and what helps with rugby, what's relevant for playing rugby.
So do you have a dedicated sports scientist at Glasgow, or is that kind of fall under the remit of the S&C coach?
It tends to be the strength and conditioning coaches who are doing all that side of that. So they, excuse me, we've had nutritionists before and psychologists, but the main contact for us are the S&C coaches, and they're managing everything from the extra fitness, the weights on a day-to-day basis, and then things like the nutrition and the hydration around training.
So when you mentioned feedback there, I'm just really interested in the process of goal setting and the goal setting that goes on between S&C coaches, and how the players' goals are fed into that system. Is there any examples during your career that was done really well, where your thoughts and goals were really integrated in that process?
I think we sit down at the start of the year and have a meeting about the goals, and it's with the rugby coaches and the S&C coaches at the same time. So really you start with your kind of your overarching goals of, for us at Glasgow, for winning the league and for progressing in the European Cup, and then you break that down into the technical goals of how you're going to achieve that, and the physical goals. For me personally, I've come in and I'm more from the typical rugby player. I'm more from an endurance sort of background. So for me, a big thing is adding strength and being able to keep on weight while keeping the endurance aspect of that. So be especially during a season when you're playing and you're training hard and there's a lot of load in the body, making is more difficult than in the pre-season to make strength gains and to keep mass. So coming up with ways to do that and having input from the strength conditioners has been really crucial to me into managing my body, not just with the weights and the strategies around weights that we use, but also in nutrition, when to eat, what to eat, and that sort of thing as well.
So there's an increasing amount of data that's been collected by S&C coaches and sports scientists, but I'm just interested in, from a player's point of view, where you see that data coming from on a day-to-day basis at Glasgow.
We record the main lifts in the gym, kind of sets, reps, weights. We do kind of as we get towards match day, we test hydration before the day of the game, just to make sure guys are ready to perform optimally, and that's one that's a challenge for me. In the lead up to the day before a game, I'm quite often on the dehydrated side, so just managing that and making sure that I'm able to hydrate properly by the time of kickoff is really crucial. And then as well as that, there's the GPS units where we measure kind of total distance, but also work rate per minute and accelerations as well. And especially since rugby's a stop-start sport, having the data on how fast you're running, what kind of accelerations you're making, and how repeatable you are as an athlete is really crucial. And then we can compare things like what was your 10-meter speed and your acceleration on the track to how does that translate to when you're playing. Do you, say in a kickoff, which is a relatively closed skill because you maybe get 30-40 meters of running, where you're just running before you make a decision. Are you able to achieve your optimum speed in that?
So when it comes to the bigger data that's collected on you guys as players, so GPS data, for instance, in an ideal world, how would you like that to be fed back? So whether it be posters on walls, emails, how would you like that to be fed back to you guys so you can kind of see it and digest it appropriately?
I think we have a good system at Glasgow where we get it emailed out to us after pretty much every session. There'll be an email sent out, and it'll kind of have a breakdown of different things: your distance, your meterage per minute, maybe for the whole session, but maybe for one specific game that we're targeting. How hard we're able to work in that game, and then the max speeds and the accelerations distance, and then they tend to group it by position, so that it's relevant to you, because in rugby, there's players doing different jobs, and the front row and the wing are doing quite different things. You don't expect them to achieve the same speeds in a game, so having a group by position makes it more relevant. I think having, every game is different and works out differently, but having guidelines for what kind of how your training compares to a game is very useful. And a lot of our pre-season training, the strength and conditioners had feedback into the structure of the training session, so that it would more closely mirror the workload and the efforts expended in a game.
So when you do get that email, what kind of things are you looking at? Are you looking at the raw numbers? Are you looking at how you compare to other guys in your position, other guys in the squad? What are you guys having a little bit of banter over?
I'd say it tends to be you look at all the numbers, and then basically you are looking for whichever one you're leading the category, and this is the one that you're highlighting. Although I guess speed is the big glamorous one. Everyone wants to be faster than the guys around them. But I think they're all useful numbers, and when we get that, I'm looking at every column and looking at how I've compared, and thinking about the training session, and we also they have that as a prompt in the email, because it comes in an attachment, and the email says have a look at the comparison with your position, and think about why you're above, why you're below the people around you, just to have I guess a little bit of thought provoking, just going into looking at the data.
So is it quite a common thing at Glasgow that the guys will really look at that data in depth from that email? Or is there some out there, I mean, you'd have to stitch anyone up, but is there any guys out there who don't take the information as well as maybe you do?
I think the majority of the guys do look at the email, but it's more, you more see it when certain sessions they'll put up in the changing room. So that's when kind of the ribbon comes into play. It's a little bit harder when you're all getting sent an individual email, but when you can highlight certain numbers on a sheet of paper that's been stuck in the change room, that's when it gets competitive. That's when you're defending yourself by saying, "Oh, my top speed wasn't great, but look at your total distance."
So is that information put up at strategic times, or is that just a kind of random occurrence for that info?
I think it tends to be when we're in the next day. When we're in the structure of the week, there's certain times when we're not in our training at the venues, we're all off the next day. So we'll be up in the change room if we're in the day after, but we're getting most of it emailed out anyway. So you're definitely seeing it. But I think having it where you're all going to see it together kind of gives it a competitive edge.
So do you see guys in the squad that maybe don't react well to that information? So maybe the quieter, kind of less experienced guys, or does everyone get involved in hammering each other, whoever's at the bottom?
I think everyone gets involved, and it does. it definitely does put a bit of pressure on you if you're down the bottom of the list, just to kind of to do whatever you can to fight to get out of it. We had a similar thing for strength a few years ago, where it was similarly grouped off by position, and they put kind of your 1RMs or predicted 1RMs for the main exercises, and you're coloured in green if you're above the average for your position, and red if you're below, and add a few reds, and it definitely kind of just gives you some motivation to go out and improve and to kick on, you know.
So I just want to move on a little bit and just get your take on the other roles that the S&C coach may take up, not necessarily kind of structured, but away from the gym or away from the field. What kind of things are you tapping into the S&C coach for, maybe on more of a global performance level?
I think it's a really important thing, and I think we do a good job of integrating that in Glasgow. The S&C coaches tend to take the warm-ups, and so you're kind of mixing in rugby specific things with an S&C component. So, you know, in our sport, you require to be explosive and good at accelerating, good footwork. And so, you know, the warm-up might involve, you know, like good technique for accelerating, and just being physically primed as well for whatever you do in the session. So if we have more contact in the session, the warm-up will contain kind of more physical elements for the upper body, as well as just running, just so you're conditioned and you're good to go. I think, as well as that, there's just the kind of the having another pair of eyes, someone who's an expert at strength and conditioning can provide a fresh approach, because we tend to, this is probably true of a lot of sports, but you tend to be in a little bit of a bubble technique wise, and you know, this is the way you're coached to tackle, say, or to carry the ball, and an S&C coach can say, well, maybe you'll be faster like this. This is the way we train a sprinter to do it, and you can make adjustments to your technique based on their expertise in another area, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But having fresh ideas coming in gives you a chance to gain competitive advantages. And then there's the off-field element of how do you recover? How do you get the most out of your body? So the S&C worked with the players this pre-season on doing presentations on nutrition, on sleep, on recovery, and how basically to maximize the benefits of your training. And it's something we take quite seriously, the kind of the nutrition aspects as well, but also maximizing recovery. And for me, talking about maintaining weight, kind of making sure I'm getting enough good calories in is important, but things like being able to go to the sauna straight after a session to increase blood plasma, increase testosterone, I found is really helpful for not only strength, but for maintaining mass through the season.
I just want to bring it back to the start of that answer when you mentioned warm-ups, and probably could tag in gym sessions as well in this question. But how much freedom do you like as a player? Do you prefer to be left to your own devices when it comes to things like warm-ups that are obviously quite individual, or would you rather have some really set structure, or basically everyone's doing the same thing and there's not much kind of play for you to express what you feel you need and you want?
I think, for me personally, I like a mix of both. It's definitely good to have kind of if you have the majority of warm-ups led, it kind of it gives you a chance to try exercise and to know what you need for your body to be ready. And so then when you're given the chance to just to take more responsibility on your own, you have an idea of what you should be doing. Whereas if you're, I guess there's a chance of it being stale if it's always led by the coaches, or if you're always left to your own devices, then you could be underprepared for a certain session because you maybe don't know what you're doing. I find that kind of you're able to pick up ideas and you work out what works for your own body. So for me, kind of stretching off my back and hips before sessions is important to make sure that I'm ready to go when we start the rugby. In the gym it's largely led, but then there's a chance to adapt things for injuries, which is part of all sports, and for what you feel works for you and how you're feeling that day as well. So I think it's good that we're given a structure, but also that we can have a conversation with the coach and say, when I had last season, when I had a problem with my hips, I didn't squat for a couple of months and I did trap bar deadlift instead, and just found that really beneficial for my overall performance. And just by changing that, not only helped me on the rugby field, but I think helps your overall strength, just to be able to mix in different exercises and to have different things. So basically, instead of doing the prescribed program, I've talked to the coach and explained what the problem is, and they've suggested trying trap bar. But then when I've gone back to squatting a couple of months later, having the basis of building up the strength, and that exercise has helped my squats as well.
Just going to take a very quick break to break up the episode with Rob. Hope you enjoyed it so far. It's an itch that I've been wanting to scratch for a while, to get on a professional athlete and speak about, basically get the perspective of the people we're all trying to improve as coaches and sports scientists. So it was great to get Rob on, so massive thanks to him for giving up an evening to chat to me. So just before we get into part 2, just want to say a massive thanks to Train with Push and Valve Performance for sponsoring the episode today. So I'm just getting back into my own training using the push band. So if you haven't checked out the new redesigned app and you've got a push band, definitely check that out. It's got some cool new features. The user interface is really good, and the kind of user experience is much improved. So definitely check that out. A new product has also been brought out by the guys at Valve Performance. So if you were at the UKSCA a couple of weeks ago, you'll have seen the prototype. So definitely keep an eye out for that, which is going to add to the product range held by Valve Performance, which goes alongside the Nord board. So hope you enjoy part 2 with Rob, and I will speak to you soon. So when it comes to relationship building for the S&C coach, obviously building relationship with their players, what would you say from your experience, maybe to an S&C coach who's new in a job, what would be the techniques to get the guys on board? Would it be obviously getting involved in maybe some sort of challenge, like a gym challenge early doors, to show what they need to show, they can do what they can be in the mixer and mix it with the players? Or is it someone that maybe a technique that to kind of stand back and observe and just dip in and out in the first couple of weeks? From your experience, what is the best way for a coach to really engage the players?
I think for me the main thing is kind of having the respect, and that's if they're demonstrating that they're expert in their field, and whether that's just because they can lift a huge amount, or they're really powerful, or what they say is easily applicable and makes a difference too. I think that's more important than setting a hard and fast rule for you should step back and just observe, or you should always get in the mix. Just that kind of expertise is the most important thing, and demonstrating that by working together, kind of the athlete is gonna get the benefit from it, you know.
So when it comes to S&C coaches and their ability in the gym, how much influence does that have on the buy-in that the coach is going to get with the players? Obviously, not being able to maybe lift as much as you guys, but just show how competent they are in the gym, that they can be competitive.
Well, firstly, it's useful from a coaching standpoint, just if they're saying, because sometimes it's not always the easiest thing to picture when you're trying to coach. You know, you're trying to coach cleans, and they're saying keep the bar closer to you, extend the hips, try to get to triple extension, and just rather than explaining it, if they can pick up a bar and have kind of flawless technique, it gives you a better idea of what you're trying to do with the exercise a lot of the time than someone, even the best person in the world, could explain. Just seeing that picture is more useful. But I think probably more importantly, it just helps that banter and gives them a bit of bragging rights over a player if they say, "Oh, what are you benching?" and then they go ahead and knock out a few more reps than you were doing on it.
Is that something that Stu's doing?
Stu's probably stronger than me in most of the major lifts, so.
So I just want to touch on something that you said right at the start, and it kind of it just touches on the influences that are out there, whether it be on the internet, on social media, that can potentially cloud the kind of practice of players and the physical preparation and coaches, to be fair. But what are the resources that maybe you tap into? Obviously, taking the work that you do in the gym obviously very seriously. Maybe what are the resources that you and maybe the other guys look at to influence what you do and the things that you're putting into S&C coaches' ideas and potential things to include?
No, there's a lot of guys now who've moved on from Glasgow who are interested in the kind of the performance side of lifting, and for me and for most of the guys, I think the primary source is our coaches, and just having them tell us about some study they're reading, some theory that they're looking at, or a different technique, and having that, and that's what I'd say the vast majority of the ideas we're trying out in training and trying out that transfers to the field as well for us, that comes from it's from the coaches. Aside from that, and I can't speak particularly to other players, and I know that guys are looking at different things. You mentioned, like, I listen to a few podcasts, and the Tim Ferriss podcast I listen to, and kind of you occasionally hear ideas on that, on what people are doing or trying for high performance. That's interesting. I read strengththeory.com with Greg Nichols, which I think has a lot of interesting stuff on it. And for the majority of that stuff, if I'm reading something interesting or different, I'll bring it back to the coaches at Glasgow and talk it through with them. Do they think it would work? Do they think it's worth trying? And just giving it a go. And I think that's useful, just to, even if it doesn't work, just to try something. But a lot of the kind of the strange ideas that have popped up have actually turned out to be pretty useful, I found.
So is there any examples that that you've got, which you may have got from strengththeory.com or something like that, and put it to the coaches, and which has been used and had a positive impact on your game?
For me, well, I'm a big devotee of saunas and getting that effect straight after training, and the fact that it's good for endurance and strength is a major bonus. The other one's probably occlusion cuffs, particularly kind of for lower body injuries where you can't really get a lot of load. I've had back early in my career, kind of had injuries where I've had a lot of muscle wastage. I was in a cast for 9 weeks in my ankle and kind of didn't have any leg left when I was finished. But now being able to have that and to simulate strength work without any load is massively useful.
So was that something that came from you?
No, that was something that they just started bringing in, and kind of not just for, I think primarily for guys who are injured so they can get some load, but also I was using it at some points last season just to try and increase power production from leg work.
So I've just got one more question to ask you before I let you go. The kind of big one, really. What can an S&C coach do, whether it be a specific trait, a skill, a characteristic? What can they do with you guys to increase their impact that they have within the squad on each individual player? What would be that one thing that they need to tick that box to increase their impact they're having?
There's a couple of things spring to mind, and the first one maybe shouldn't be as relevant, but just something kind of flashy and attention grabbing, as kind of shallow as that sounds, but the whole, if they are able to lift a lot of weight, do something really impressive in the gym, or one of our S&C coaches, Thibaut, came in this year and basically has a challenge where he asks a player to place a coin flat in their palm, and then he just kind of stares at them and then snatches it out of their hand before they can react, and no one in the squad's beaten them at it yet. So they're just
little party trick.
Something very shallow and flashy that just a little party trick that's attention grabbing. The other thing I'd say is showing how it's relevant to your sport. So when we're doing exercises and looking at the data we get, the GPS data, what I really want to know is kind of how does this make me a better player, and what is the bit at the end of the day, what's the benefit for playing rugby? So kind of if it's driven by that, the very obvious connection, you're squatting because you'll get better leg power, you'll be more dominant in your tackles when you're ball carrying, very obvious connection. Kind of I think for me, it's the simplest thing for getting buy-in, and this is a good exercise, this is something I want to do. Same with GPS data, kind of showing this is the typical demands in a game, so we've adapted training to more reflect that. So you're going to get a more game-like intensity from your practice, just having it relevant to the sport.
Brilliant. That was the burning question. I left the big one till the last. Are you on social media? Are you on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that?
I'm not on social media.
That is the first time ever, I think, on the podcast that no one's been on social media, but definitely respect that. Is that a club thing or is that a personal thing, just to stay out of the shit that's going on?
it's more of a personal thing from being fairly technology illiterate, but my teammates constantly tell me that I should be on it. I think it might be beneficial from kind of a profile sort of thing. So I'm wavering, but I'm not sure.
No, I respect that, mate. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So that's it. I mean, thanks a lot for your time, Rob. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights with us and the listeners.
No, good to talk to you, Rob. Cheers.
So we'll definitely keep in touch, and I'll speak soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye, mate. Bye. So podcast 104 is done. Just want to say a massive thanks to Rob Harley for popping on the podcast. It was great to get the perspective of a professional athlete and someone who obviously thinks about their craft, which I'm hoping that other athletes do, and I'm sure they do. But it was great to get his perspective on the role of the S&C coach. So massive thanks to Train with Push and Valve Performance for sponsoring the episode today. Got some great guests coming up over the next couple of weeks, so hopefully you will tune in and check them out. And got some really exciting stuff going on in the background, which will hopefully come to fruition the next couple of weeks, maybe the next month, which I'm sure you'll hear and see all over my Twitter feed over the next couple of days. So I hope to speak to you soon, and I'll see you in episode 105.